Hi, I'm Judd Danby. Welcome back for our third and final video in this series of pre-show videos for our November 9th, 2023 artists at Purdue Convos, the Kronos Quartet. The first two videos were solely historical, and this third is the longest of the three and also ranges over more topic areas. But there is one final historical part at the beginning, but it bridges us into perhaps the central aspect of what defines the Kronos Quartet throughout its 50 years, and that is close collaboration with composers. I've lost count, frankly, but I think it's very safe to say that after 50 years, Kronos Quartet has commissioned probably over 1,000 different pieces by over 100 different composers. And I wanted to have David reflect on the very first collaboration when Kronos was first emerging with composer Ken Benshoff, who, by the way, continues to write for the group. After that, we'll briefly visit with a few of their many, many projects and collaborations in the years since that first collaboration. And then we'll hear David speak at length about some of the very exciting pieces that we'll be hearing on November 9th. The earlier works, we've got some clips that you'll hear. The brand new stuff has not yet been recorded, so I won't be able to share any of that with you here, but of course we'll be hearing it on November 9th. This third and final pre-show film lets us hear from David some broad and general comments about what it means to him to make music and to make live music and to be in a concert hall with hundreds of people listening, and that loop, that feedback loop that's set up between the quartet and the audience. I wanted to reference one other very formative story. Am I saying the name correctly? Ken Benshoff, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I read the wonderful anecdote of that being the first commission, and it was for donuts.
So Ken was my composition teacher in high school. And when Kronos first started, one of the first pieces we played on the first rehearsal on September 1st, 1973, was his quartet called Odds and Ends.
Mm-hmm.
But he had written that when I was in high school.
Okay.
But he began his first piece for Kronos. He began it even before we had our first rehearsal. When I told him, Ken, I'm going to have a group and we're going to be playing all kinds of stuff. And he said, well, I'm going to write a piece.
Nice.
That was what became traveling music.
Yes.
And in those days, the idea of commission money was an impossible idea to even think of. But a cup of coffee and a bag of donuts was possible. And
I love that.
Our friendship survived that, and he's still writing for Kronos, and I can't wait to see him when we're in Seattle.
That's wonderful.
Ken Benchoff's piece is so beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
so much fun to put together, and we had we learned from Ken how to talk to a composer and how and we've been learning a lot of things from each composer we've worked with, but the relationship was so positive and so good, and the piece was so fabulous. I mean, I can't even imagine a better way to start a quartet.
That's
So
amazing.
I've felt really lucky ever since.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you've had similar close relationships, I know, with Philip Glass, of course, with Terry Riley. There are these composers that really figure repeatedly and prominently in your repertory.
And I would say I mentioned the premiere the other day of Alexandra Vrabelov. She's written
Right.
24 pieces for us.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And Frangi Salizadeh has written, I think, 4 pieces. And Nicole Lizet. And uh, oh, we have some marvelous friends, and the relationships that go back many, many years with composers are especially important to us.
Fantastic.
Looking at the program, for example, that we're going to play at Purdue, and I am so pleased to bring the music there. That and some of it has taken many, many years to put this all together. And in fact, you could say that it's taken all of these years, really. Um, but I mean, one of the things that you'll hear is um, so the man that was the speechwriter and lawyer of Martin Luther King Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
I heard him speak about the "I Have a Dream" speech on television, and I was so moved by what he had to say. And then I found out Clarence Jones lives in Palo Alto, California, which is down the street really from San Francisco. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, I've got to call Clarence. Um, I want to try to get his story into the world of our music. And so it was a couple of weeks later, and he was in a recording studio, and he told the entire story of the "I Have a Dream" speech. He even read from the letter from the Birmingham jail.
Wow.
And that's what our audience at Purdue is going to get to hear, is that section of Peace Be Till where Clarence, who, by the way, is the person responsible for getting that letter out of the jail.
Mm.
Um, he's reading from that
Oh,
letter
wow.
in the Birmingham jail, and beautiful voice. And um, anyway, this is how we get into uh, some of the adventures. And then there's this fabulous piece by Stacy Garrop, who's from Chicago, and um, I had heard about Studs Terkel and Mahalia Jackson. I heard they were friends, and the Mahalia Jackson had been uh, Studs Terkel's guest on his radio show a number of times. Well, we started looking around, and we found that there was a fabulous recording of an interview that they did. And I thought, I want everybody in the world to know about this friendship and this amazing, these two amazing Americans um, who were so courageous. And so Stacy made this beautiful piece called Glorious Mahalia. And we're going to play it at Purdue. And then, you know, um, that same kind of, um, I guess you would say, contrast on the second half of the concert. There's a song that we love to play called Tusen Tankar. And what it means in English is 1,000 thoughts. And then after that, we're going to play Mary Kuyumjan's Silent Cranes. And that's a piece that we premiered marking the 100th year since the Armenian genocide. And we played it in Yerevan, Armenia. And so we're bringing that to Purdue. And
Wonderful.
it's pretty amazing to hear survivors of that genocide talking.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that, a concert is an opportunity for music to take so many different forms, and for in this case Kronos to be able to take our audience in so many places. Some will be really fun, some might be uh, have this the sorrowful feeling. The range of what we can feel should be part of a concert, in my opinion, and that's what we're trying to do.
I wanted to circle around to back to the 2009-10 concert season, when you were here last with your Music Without Borders project, which included a piece that Sydney Opera House and our very own Purdue Convos co-commissioned by John Rose. Is it Music for Fences?
Yes.
Yeah, which I recall was even just sort of visually, theatrically a striking piece as the big panels came in. And of course, I've been thinking about the nearly 14 years since, how borders and fences have become, not just figuratively, but in some cases literally, flashpoints in many places around the world. And we keep reading and hearing this word polarization. But I keep feeling the word demonization. People are being demonized for what we think might make a just society, or how something ought to be organized even, or what we believe, or who we are as people, our traits, our identities. What I'd love to hear you speak to the role that you imagine music and the arts more generally playing in helping to push back against some of those kinds of forces in our world.
Mhm. The beauty of the arts and music is it's participatory. It's like if we didn't have an audience, or if musicians didn't have an audience, there would be no reason for us to do what we're doing right now. Okay, we're coming to town, we're going to be playing this concert. Let's hope there's a lot of people there. But that becomes this responsibility that we have to give our absolute best for those people. And I think that I don't know a musician anywhere that doesn't feel that way. That if you're playing, whether you're playing in a public school, you're playing at Carnegie Hall or La Scala, you never know the effect that one note you make might have on somebody.
Hmm.
And
Like
so,
those Beethoven chords for you all those years ago.
absolutely, did the Budapest Quartet know when they were playing that I would hear that as a 12-year-old kid and say, I've got to do this? Did they know that? I I was able to tell the wife of the cellist of the Budapest
Oh,
Quartet. I was
nice.
able to tell her that.
Nice.
Yeah, it made me very happy to be able to say that to her.
That's great.
But you just simply never know. And that's one of the great things about music too. It's so mysterious. Like, how does it work? But there's I don't know of any culture that that does not have music. Music is like this glue, this human. Um, it's almost like a substance, only it's invisible and mysterious. But it somehow allows us to learn more about each other.
Yeah, and we always hear that idea that music is universal, and I push back a little and say, actually, what makes it so great is there are so many different musics, but it's the urge to music that's universal. And the
Well, and the other thing is it's so private. I mean,
mm,
it's like, what you allow into your inner sanctum of listening and you know, that you could call on any minute of the day or night. What you allow into your life will be totally yours, and mine will be totally mine. And it's that way for every one of us, I think.
yep, and the soil we're planted in is going to change the color of the
That's
sound.
exactly it. And no two inner sanctums of sound are the same. And we should treasure that as human beings, I think.